Hey guys, today I'll be doing solve critiques for my good friend CriticalCubing, and of course he's asked me to be very critical of his solves, so here we go. So for the first solve, you had a pretty good cross solution, but you didn't look ahead to the first pair. So here we have blue, orange, green, and red. So green and orange can go in pretty easily together, so you started by solving blue over to here. Then if you look ahead to this pair here or this pair here, you'll notice that they're both pretty easy to track. So let's just track this one because that's the first one that you did. So they end up right here and they barely moved at all. So I think you could have looked ahead to reduce a pause here. Instead you paused, saw these two, and then instead of doing the most efficient way, which would have been like this to pair them up, if you had seen them from the start, instead you move the edge over here, which this is also an okay solution like this, hide the edge. But I think the other way would have been faster. All right, so for this pair, what you did was move it over to here and then pair them up like this. All right, so coming back to here, I know this from edge control that you can orient this edge back here by doing it like this instead. And then to pair them up, so then now you have one extra oriented edge. But that's mostly just important for last slot, so what you did is fine. Do it like this. And then like that. So I thought this one was pretty easy to see, but you saw this one, so that's even better. No rotation. And then you went into the last one pretty seamlessly. All right, so here you did a very good finger trick, which is this, that I feel like not enough people do because it makes this algorithm really fast and has no regrips. So good job there, and then here just PLO. So overall it was a good solve, but I think your cross to F12 transition could have been better. For the second solve, again, the cross to F12 transition wouldn't have been that hard, but you did have a pause after the cross and before the first pair. So what you did here are the cross pieces. So what you did was solve orange, then solve blue like this, and solve red, and then solve green into the back like this. So overall it was a good cross solution, but let me just show you what I would have looked ahead to for first pair. So I would have looked at the blue and orange, and you'll notice that solving orange doesn't do anything to it, but then when you solve blue, it moves this over to here. And then when you solve red, it puts this corner at the back. And then when you insert green, it's going to take the corner out. So the white sticker is going to be here. And the whole time I would only be tracking where the white sticker goes. So like this, and then here they are. So what you did here was turn so that you did this with your right hand into the front slot, which is okay. So coming back here, instead I would have done going into the back slot to make it easier to see what's the open slots over here. So normally you want to insert into back slots instead of front slots whenever you can. So for this one, you would do it like this. So the next pair you saw was this one, but then because you were facing this way, it made it harder to see. So you had to first rotate and then recognize and then insert this, which made you have a pause. Instead, you would have seen it right away. So then you inserted this into the back and you did this finger trick here, which is good, saves a regrip. Then you have this one and this one. So you did this into the back, which is good because this one becomes a front slot. All right, now you had this case. So there's actually a lot of ways to pair this up, and I think it's good to experiment with how the corner is oriented and which side it's on to see which way you like the best. And the reason I say this is because the way you did it, while it's an okay solution, I don't think that it worked well for your hands. So here's what you did. You paired them up like this, and then inserted like this, which is a bit of a complicated finger trick to do because I think that's really easy to mess up, and I personally don't do that. And you did mess up in your solve a little bit, so what I would recommend instead is, since it's really hard to do F prime with the finger tricks that you had, then instead of pairing it up from here, you can pair it up from here. So like this, and then do a reverse sledgehammer. Or instead, you can move this one over to here. This is probably the easiest one to do, and it goes like this. And then insert it like from here. So if you experiment with the finger tricks, then you can come up with a solution that works for you on the left side, right side, and depending on corner orientations. And the reason is because you learn thumb moves with different hands. And so like what I would have done in order to do what you did for F prime, U, F prime would be like that, just because I'm lefty, so it's easier for me. But then for you, it was like this, which made it really complicated, and therefore it's probably better to use a different solution for that case. All right, after was just regular OLL and PLL, so I'm not going to say anything about that. All right, so the third solve was pretty lucky, but you did do it very well. So we have these two already solved, and we have these two left. So what you did was put them at the back, and you solved blue. And I think you looked ahead to this pair here. So you solved blue, and then you solved red by moving the cross over, inserting red, and then going back. So then you did this pair, which requires a rotation to start. So let's take a look at that last move you did. After inserting red, you would have done D prime. But instead of doing D prime, if you do a wide U prime, then you don't have to rotate to start this pair. So that's a little optimization after the cross. Anytime you can end with D moves and you've looked ahead to your first pair, then you can choose whether to do a wide U or a D, and usually it will save you a rotation. So you did this pair first. So next what you had was this one and this one. So what you did to pair them up was rotate and do this, and then you inserted it like this. So coming back here for this specific case, if you're already facing this angle, you don't need to rotate. Instead, you can just pair them up like this. Then you can insert into the back. If you still don't want a rotation, I mean, you can rotate and do that, but then instead you could also do this. But anyway, just looking at the way you did it like this, and then inserted it with F moves. And then you inserted this pair, and then inserted this pair. So F2L was really good, partly just because you got lucky on those last two pairs, and I think it only took you about 4 seconds, so that's very good. So now for OLL, you did do a finger trick that was not very good. What you did was like this, index finger like that, and then index finger again, and then sledgehammer and finish the OLL. So back to here, instead, what you could have done is a few options. If you do the index finger to start, you can use your middle finger next, so you don't have to reset your index finger. That's a little bit faster. And the other thing you can do is do index finger for only the second U, and for the first U, do it with your left hand, like that. All right, then just PLL. All right, for the fourth solve, you had a few options on the cross. So here's blue, green, orange, which is attached to the corner, and red also attached to the corner. So normally when I see these, I try to make an X cross. Obviously, I don't always make an X cross in these cases because sometimes it's just hard. And for this one, I think you could have. So you had the option to save the orange corner or the red corner. All right, so the first thing that came to mind when I was doing this solve was to solve the red and green corner, because this edge is pretty close to being done. There's only one move to put it in. All right, so how I did this cross is I first started by solving orange and green, which is like this. And then before inserting green, I would have moved this edge into here to solve it. So that's getting ready for the X cross because I'm gonna save this red-green corner. All right, so put this in, then solve the red-green edge. So D2R to solve it, and then when I do D, then that makes an X cross. All right, so since there were two possibilities for an X cross with green orange or red green, that's why I recommend doing an X cross there. All right, so back to the beginning of the solve, what you did for this one is, so what you did was move blue over here, D2, so that you can solve red, and then you solved green and orange like this. So I already talked about cross to F2L transition, and here you kind of did this before you started, and before you started F2L, and notice this one and this one. So that's what you did first, but instead what would have been easy to look ahead to was this one and this one. So I recommend, I'm not going to go through the whole thing again, but I recommend that if you're watching to check how where these were when you started the cross and see if you can track those. So anyway, you went into these two, like this. and then rotate and did this one and this one. Then here you had a pretty big pause, and you'll notice what happened here was you solved the front two slots, and therefore you couldn't really see much. So instead, what would have been better for the solution here would have been to rotate to the other side before you started. Because you were facing red, you had the choice to rotate to green or rotate to blue. So if you rotated to blue, then now you have open front slots, and you could still solve this one without rotating. So that's why I recommend keeping open front slots, because then this one is pretty easy to see now. So you ended up doing this one after a pause, and you did it like this. And then these two. So this one you did a very good solution that I feel like a lot of people don't do, because it pairs up, so it looks like you should just do it like that and then insert. But then instead what's faster, which is what you did, is to put the corner at the back into sledgehammer, then insert. All right, then you got this case, which I think is probably one of my least favorite OLLs, because you have to use your opposite hand and then, so do two sexy moves and then do F with that thumb. So instead, I'm going to recommend a different algorithm that I think is okay. It's like not great either way, but like I use this one, which is like this. So R prime, U prime, double sledgehammer, and then UR. So anyway, what you did was this, which was a little bit slow and you kind of messed up on this last move here, and then just a U perm. All right, so for your last solve, you have the cross pieces here, 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 and here. So what you did first is notice that blue and orange are on the wrong side. So if you just inserted them both, they would be wrong. So then instead you moved orange into here and inserted blue. So like this. And at the same time, that sets up these two pieces so that red goes to the left of green, as you can tell from the centers. So this would be easy to insert. So what you did here is D2 to align the cross to insert these two, and then R2, F2, and then D. So coming back here to before you did D2, I think I would have done something a little bit differently, only because it saves moves, and when you save moves, it makes it easier to look ahead to the first pair. So what I would have done is D prime, U prime, and then just solve them like R2, B2 like that. Or I just noticed now even better is if you did B2, R2, that would set up this pair. Okay, anyway, you did this, and then, so after looking around for a bit, you found this and this. So insert, and then you saw these two, of course, so insert. And next you did this pair, which you could have paired up like this, which would have been really easy. It makes for a very nice pair, but instead what you did is move the edge over here and pair them up like this. Now, that's okay, but it definitely would have been a lot faster to do them from here, like that. Okay, so anyway, you did it like this. And then you did this pair like this. Now you had this OLL, but before you started, you looked at the back. Now you never need to look at the back for OLLs. You only need to look at the front and top and at least one side. So if you looked at either side, you could tell that this corner orientation is a T. So then like it wouldn't be this one, because you wouldn't be able to see yellow stickers here. So then you did the OLL, very good finger tricks here, and then a perm. So overall, very solid solves. Obviously, since you're sub 10, your look ahead is good, your fundamentals are good. So I only needed to comment on a few cases that you solved, certain ways that I thought you could have solved better. And not necessarily because they weren't efficient, but just because there was another way that I thought would have worked either better for your fingers or would have flowed a little bit nicer and so on. Your finger tricks overall were pretty good, and I didn't have much to comment on there. Now I think where you have the most room for improvement is cross to F2L transition, because you always had a pause after the cross and then didn't go into the first pair right away. So that eliminates a pause and lets you turn faster on your first pair and gives you a lot of time to look ahead to your second pair. Basically, between starting the solve and starting your second pair, all that time is for looking for second pair. That's why I advocate having really good cross to F2L transition. And that basically just means being able to predict what your first pair case is going to be and going into it right away after the cross. Now, for those of you who want to get started with this, then I have a video which I will link in the description called Cross to F2L Transition, where I talk about exactly what I look for to predict the first pair. The only other thing I have to say is you can make a few optimizations on your look ahead by doing certain things like inserting into back slots more often and so on. But overall, the solves were very solid. Anyone who's sub 10 obviously has very solid solves. It just takes like an extra push to be able to get better, which is a lot of optimizations. And then at some point, once your look ahead is good, increasing your turn speed. And at that point, it seems like it's really hard to increase your turn speed and still keep your look ahead good. But you know, that's what makes solvers so good past sub 10. So personally, I'm not at that level yet. I'm still like sub 10, not sub 9 yet. So there's not a lot I can comment on that part. But yeah, overall, very solid solves. All right, so that's it for this critique video. And if you're wondering how to send me a solve so that I can critique it, I won't necessarily upload it to this channel because obviously I have a lot of videos coming in and I can't make a video for everybody, but you can visit my Facebook page. You can just check the description and you can send me a message from there. Just upload it to YouTube and send it to me. If you check the post on my Facebook page, you can see when I'm open to receive critiques and make videos just like this one. So you can send me one and then you may be featured in a video just like this. And of course, if you just want tips or questions about anything, then you can also message me there. I'd love to have a conversation with any of you. So that's it for this video and I will see you all next time. Thanks for watching.